I am Surhuda. Let's try and understand how to write reports. Well, this is a typical office where there's a meeting going on. Many times there are meetings happening everywhere in all organizations, even in a family. What is the first thing to understand about a meeting? The first thing that we should know is what is the purpose of the meeting? Secondly, what is the agenda? The agenda is nothing but the points of discussion. Of course, who has convened the meeting? Sometimes it's the grand old grandfather of the family who calls for a meeting and he says, well, all of you just come to the dining table. I have to say something very important. So at that time, the convener of the meeting is the grandfather of the family. Likewise, in an office, there could be anyone, any head of department, your boss, or someone else who calls for a meeting. Who is the moderator? A moderator is someone who takes part in the discussion as a moderator. He or she sits and moderates people's opinions, brings them together. He anchors the meeting or she anchors the meeting. Sometimes the convener and the moderator or the anchor are all same, one person. And of course, next comes who said what. So a meeting is typically when people come together and everyone has to say something. So the agenda is printed in which discussion points are mentioned. Point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, point number 4. And to which all the participants have to give some opinion. So someone sits and makes minutes of the meeting. It is called as minutes of the meeting as to what exactly happened in the meeting. Someone is taking down the minutes of the meeting. And of course, by the end of the meeting, there are some decisions which are made. And someone writes down the report or the minutes and someone writes down who said what. Now, who said what is something which is in direct speech, but when we convert it to a report, it becomes indirect. Thus, the first thing to understand about writing reports and an easy way to learn writing reports is to start writing meeting reports, which are also called as meeting minutes. Now let's look at a typical meeting. Let's assume that in this office a meeting was held and the topic was an upcoming picnic. So now what happens is about 12 people are invited to this meeting. Someone is a convener and that convener calls for people to come and attend this meeting. So about 12 people from different or from the same department participated in this meeting. It was held at the conference hall number 2 in the main office building at 12:30 p.m. Now, and roughly what happened actually was it was decided to take a picnic to a nearby beach resort in the month of January this year. Now, this is actually the outline of the meeting. What happened in that meeting and what was decided. Till all the decisions are met, there are some people who agree, there are some people who may not agree. However, when a report is made, all the opinions are actually combined together and finally whatever big decision is made is reported. Now, when we write this meeting report, the biggest tool that we use is something called as third person narrative. Friends, what is first person narrative? First person narrative is when I say something. I like this, I like that, I like to go to the beach, or we all would like to go to the beach. That is I. That is called as first person narrative. I and we. First person, singular or plural. Second person narrative. What is second person narrative? Is when someone is writing reports or when someone is saying something and we say, you all agreed that we should go to the beach. You all would like to go to the beach, won't you? So those are all second person narrative sentences. However, for no reports do we write I and we or you either, but we write all the reports in third person narrative. For instance, newspaper reports. Who is saying what is yes reported inside. However, we do not say I or we as the first narration. Someone is reporting it, so that person who is narrating it is always in third person. That's why for a meeting report also we have to use the style third person narrative. Like, again, let's run through these sentences once again. A meeting was held to discuss the upcoming picnic. Now, here we don't say we all had a meeting. Wrong. 12 people from the department participated in the meeting. Now, this sentence is also a third person sentence. It was held at the conference hall. Yes, this is a third person sentence. It was decided to take a picnic to a nearby beach resort. Yes, it's a third person sentence. That's right. If you say, we decided to go to a nearby beach, that's wrong. Because for a report, we shouldn't use first person. A funny meeting took place one day. In the thick of the jungle, all the animals came together, and it was a big meeting about discussing a picnic again. However, something funny happened. In the middle of the meeting, everyone started feeling hungry. So there were different people with different opinions. What happened in this meeting? Let us see. The elephant said, I need some green grass. I'm so hungry. I want to eat now. So he said, I need some green grass. Whereas the tiger growled, Grrr, I cannot eat grass. I have to eat some fresh meat. Get me some meat. The rabbit was all scared to see all this, but he was present there. And he feebly, in his very little small voice, he said, I can eat only rabbits. Now, well, actually, he was so scared, he wanted to say carrots. But he said rabbits because he was so scared. As I said, he wasn't sure what he was saying. He was just mumbling. But there was an intelligent wolf there, sitting there and doing notes. Friends, now look at this funny part. We have combined all the three sentences in only one sentence as an indirect sentence to represent what all the animals said. And the wolf, being very intelligent, very wise, he made a correction. The rabbit said rabbit, but the word was wrong. So he brought in a correction. Let's see what happened. Now, the report was made, and just a small sentence out of that report for us to understand how third person is written and how first person sentences are converted. So, thus goes the sentence. It says, the elephant said that he needed some green grass, whereas the tiger demanded fresh meat, but the rabbit said he could eat only some carrots. Now look at this. The rabbit had in fact said rabbits, but that was wrong. So the wise writer who wrote the minutes of the meeting already brought in a correction. So as a report writer, we have to be very perfect. We have to be correct. We have to add all the facts and figures properly. Who said what, how much, when. The detailing should be correct. Pay attention to detail. And bring in the correction. We don't have to report everything as it happened. Plus, if you can notice, there are 3 or 4 different sentences which we have merged together to make a single sentence. So, in report writing and in meeting minutes and whatever kind of report we write, the sentences have to be crisp and to the point. They have to be continuous sentences as much as possible. And we have to club together facts to make one para. The next tool for writing meeting minutes is we have to convert active to passive. Let's look at some sentences. In the blue box, the elephant convened the meeting. Now this is an active sentence, which means we're discussing who convened the meeting. It was the elephant who had called for the meeting. However, when we convert it to passive, it becomes the meeting was convened by the elephant. Well, the second one. All the animals agreed that it was lunchtime. Now the meeting was happening and then they suddenly felt hungry. So they said all the animals agreed that it was lunchtime. It was agreed that it was lunchtime. Now this sentence is a passive sentence. It means all the animals have come to a conclusion that it was lunchtime and it was just reported like that. The third sentence. All the animals agreed that the menu should be a mixed one. Now there was a big fight over who wants what. Someone wants meat, someone wants grass, someone wants vegetables, someone wants fruits. The monkeys started yelling they want fruits. So what happened as a result of all this? The person, the wolf who was writing the notes, was a very wise guy. What he did is he just came up with one sentence which said there was common consensus that there should be mixed menu. Well, as we understand, active and passive are very important tools to do reporting. We don't have to say every time who said what, neither do we have to say this was done by this person. Sometimes we just have to say it was done. So, the peons closed the school gates. So, instead of saying who closed the school gates, we can just say the school gates were closed. So, we have to keep it to passive many times while writing reports. That's another tool for you guys. The next tip on writing reports. We should write reports in the inverted pyramid style of writing. This means the most important point goes first. And of course, let's not forget the 5 W's, 1 H. What happened? Where? Why? When did it happen? Who was involved? And how? What kind of things, what took place there? So, where also is very important. So, the 5 W's, 1 H formula, which is very famous, has to be applied, of course. Sometimes in the intro, sometimes in the first para, sometimes it goes in the flow. So the inverted pyramid formula of writing demands that the most important point is first. The points have to be arranged in descending order, which means most important, next important, next important, next important. Some sentences in this report can be reported in direct speech. Sometimes, yes, we can say in reports also, we can just quote people like the principal said, there's no question of going to a beach resort because it is risky. So some sentences can be given to people as direct speech even in meeting reports. However, not all sentences. Well, as I said, so most sentences have to be reported in indirect speech. Maximum sentences in indirect speech. A few other points about writing meeting reports. Report discussions on all the agenda points. As I said, there is an agenda list given. We have to discuss where to go for picnic, who will be involved, what will be the budget. So these are some agenda points. And the meeting will discuss each point per se. So what we have to do is we have to report discussions related to each agenda point. Report who said what in indirect mode. We can't sit and direct reporting for everything. We have to report it in indirect mode. Report all the decisions met during the meeting. Report the decisions met. So what was finally decided? Look, in the animal meeting, it was finally decided to have a mixed menu, wasn't it? So we have to finally write what was decided. The second thing is sometimes it can be inverted pyramid and sometimes it can be sequential writing. So we write the chronology. This happened first, then this happened, then this happened. And in this case, the last point also can be the most important point. Some meetings we can write reports based on sequence. Say sometimes crime reports are written on sequential basis. Sometimes judicial reports are written as sequential basis. So there are two ways to write a report. The first one is the inverted pyramid formula where most important, or the sequential formula where things as they develop, point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, but the rest remain the same. Let me summarize. Active and passive usage? Yes. Direct, indirect quoting? Yes. Include all the points? Yes. If someone has to make some errors or there are some mistakes, by mistake people say something wrong, someone who's drafting the report has to make it accurate. Accuracy is important. And with all this, do not forget the inverted pyramid formula and the sequential formula, 5 W's, 1 H. And last but not the least, keep it crisp, not very long, to the point. As we saw in the animal thing case, we have combined sentences to make them shorter. Because a meeting report or any report for that matter has to be crisp, to the point. Of course, we have to use third person narrative, which means we shouldn't say I, you. We should say this was done. It was decided. A meeting took place. Who is saying this? Third person. Neither you nor I. Include all the points. Don't forget anything. Bring it to a good conclusion. And your report will be a wonderful report. Thank you.